GM, everyone. We are now live. Welcome, everyone. Really excited to be here. And yeah, we're going to start in a moment, waiting for everyone connecting. And I'm super excited to be here today talking about open house and kicking off the online Buildathon in India that we were working on since a while. And so, yeah, without further ado, let's walk through these. So first of all, who am I? I'm Lorenzo Sicilia, working at the Arbitrum Foundation as a head of technology, currently working on DevRel, data, and Arbitrum technical advancement. Previously experienced like in Consensus. I'm in crypto since 2017, worked also at Liar Ventures, which is a Web3 accelerator. So yeah, today, super happy to walk through you this. So let's start saying thank you to our partners and sponsors that make this possible. So really thank you to Open Zeppelin, the Ethereum Foundation with the Founder Success Team, Couchbase, and HubRide. You're going to also interact with them through the Buildathon. So thank you again for all your support in multiple things, both in terms of knowledge, supporting people in the next phases, and also help us to promote this event. So let's start to recap a bit how it works, the open house initiative, and how we are structuring. So first of all, the open house is a multi-step activations. We already started with the learnings, and we provided a different type of workshops and presentations to basically deep dive on product, some tech, and in general, try to give you the tools to be in the best possible position for the Buildathon that we are now starting. And now we have the build, which is what we're doing currently. So it's the online Buildathon starting today, the 22nd of August. And it will go for like little 3 weeks until the 10th of September. And I want to really explain a bit the format. So it's a 3 weeks Buildathon. You can start from scratch or just use your code or your project that you are already building. We are definitely okay with that. There is no requirement that the code needed to be written during these 3 weeks. And the reason for that is because we are basically looking for a project in the ecosystem, builders, talent, engineers that are already doing or they are thinking to do it. And we're going to support you through this journey. So really, that's the concept. If you don't have a team, that's not a problem. We're going to also do the matching and a bit of speed dating later. We're going to talk about this in a moment. But it's really open to everyone that is interested in building in Arbitrum and in general in the ecosystem. And then after that, we're going to do an Hacker House. This time we're starting in India. Open House is an initiative that is multi-regional. So we're starting from India and more are coming. And it will be in Bangalore this year, and it will be an Hacker House, proper venue, people there from our team as well, and others, working with our partners, with Open Zeppelin, Ethereum Foundation, and also Couchbase and HubRide. All of them, they will also be somehow in person or remote, depending on them, also during the Hacker House. So what happens after the Hacker House? As we said, it's a multi-step journey, and we want to have people working with us, but also we want to give you a stage where to showcase what you're building. So of course, even during the open house, there will be winners and opportunities to showcase, but after, we're going to have a proper demo day where you're going to pitch what you have built, and we're going to put you on a stage in contact with VCs, ecosystem leaders, and also potential partners. And after the demo day, we're working on this. On this item, I can't really go into much details yet, but we want to really keep accelerating your ideas and support you beyond the Buildathon and the hacker houses. So we're building really something that helps people to build successful product and be part of the Arbitrum ecosystem. Okay, so let's deep dive on the agenda for the open house Buildathon that we are kicking off today. So today is the 22nd, and this is the opening ceremony happening at 1 p.m. Local time. And after that, we're going to have a panel, and Aditi from our team will be the host, and we're going to have different people from the India ecosystem. And after that, this evening, we're going to have the builder speed dating on Discord. So if you are looking for people, or if you are someone that wants to join a team, yeah, please go there. What's going to happen during the open house Buildathon? It's a series of events during multiple days. You're going to have the 23rd a workshop about solidity and proxy pattern. After that, the 24th will be another chat with myself talking about developer tools and looking a bit how to work in Solidity or in Stylus, or basically in general how to interact with on-chain and not. And then 25, a workshop around Rust, and again, an AMA on Discord. So moving on, 26, we're going to have some AMA session, 27, a workshop about smart contract and security pitfalls. That's very important in crypto in general, taking seriously the security. And then we have Open Zeppelin. Daniel will join as well and present what they are building for Arbitrum in general and other goods. And finally, around the 29, we start to get much more serious. We're going to have a friendly pitch session that actually is the second one, sorry. The first one is the 25th. So what does it mean, a friendly pitch session? This is basically a way to collect feedback. You can start to show, for example, what you're building, what you have done so far, and then going through session where people can basically provide feedback. Then, this is a great idea, or maybe ask a couple of questions to start to understand. 2nd of September, we're going to have from the Ethereum Foundation, Matthew joining and talk about token design. As you know, it's a quite an element when you are working in crypto to take and understand what does it mean. And finally, the 3rd of September, we start again with the AMA, where you can ask anything, and then friendly pitch just before the last sprint of work. And then by the September 10, we are basically announcing who are the winners. And then we're going to have also some celebration and the possibility to showcase what you have built so far. So that's the agenda. As you can see, it's a constant effort. If there is not an activation during that day, it doesn't mean you can't go around and ask, for example, in Discord if you need something. But in general, we try to put this together. The goal is to basically build. Now, if you are connected from Twitter or YouTube, and this is the first time you are hearing about the Open House India, you still have time to register. There is this QR code, and you can jump directly there and basically sign up for the online Buildathon in India. There are a bunch of questions you need to fill. And after that, you can basically either join a team or create your own. The platform helps you also to go through this aspect. You can also create an invite code that you can reuse and basically send around for a team member joining your team. And then please start to build. I'm really excited to see what's going to be built during this online activation. Okay, but of course, it's an online buildathon. We are super excited to work with you, but we want also to have prices, and in the end, we want to incentivize you to do the best you can. So I think a difference between other hacker houses or hackathons in the past here, we don't aim to something specific that we would like to see being built. We actually care about project with great problem and solution statement and demo that shows that this works, and people that are maybe even in more advanced stages presenting their projects. And the idea is really get something that it's useful in end user ends. And so we're going to incentivize towards basically the best projects you can build. It doesn't matter the category. And then, as an honorable mention, in some areas, we're gonna just give some kind of smaller prizes just to acknowledge maybe a great idea on DeFi, on stablecoin, on gaming, AI, DePIN, mobile, and then we reserved a surprise. Like if you bring something we didn't thought about, well, great, we like that as well. We need creativity here, so we are very keen to see what you're gonna build. Okay, so beyond the Buildathon, it is about Arbitrum, of course, and while the open house lets you build skills, we want to make you iterate faster, providing feedback, and Arbitrum provide you the foundation for that project to basically really shine and make it happen. So moving basically on what Arbitrum can do for yourself, we like to think a bit of how the L2s win as Ethereum matures. So definitely we're not here to compete with Ethereum. It's actually quite the opposite. We don't want to either making just a copy and paste L2. I don't think it's anymore the time. What really makes the L2s win is to provide to the builders basically constant innovation, interoperable solutions, and a security that is anchored on the L1. And so I'm going to go through some of the stuff we feel Arbitrum does for the builders, and this concept of Arbitrum everywhere that we want to explain. So Arbitrum in the end is quite fast and cheap transactions with 250 millisecond block time, particularly on the Arbitrum one. We have liquidity. We are around like 14 billion. Actually, thesis keep changing, and it's even higher right now. With a core of more than 6 billion in stable coin. Is it a thing you get by just deploying your applications on Arbitrum One? The ecosystem is growing as we speak. Even these activities we're doing today, it goes in that direction. So it's really great to see you today here, and we can see that it's a vibrant ecosystem. We are one slice away from stage 2 status. We're keeping working on this. We're going to talk about the last novelty we added. And in general, the entire stack is quite flexible. And in that sense, this is a bit of the Arbitrum everywhere paradigm we are talking about. How it works. So you have two ways as a builders to really take advantage of that. On one hand, you have the Arbitrum One, which is one of the top 3 chain by economic activities, is probably the most credible, neutral, decentralized L2. And you don't need nothing to deploy an Arbitrum One. You go there, you deploy your contract, and done. It's Arbitrum taking care of the infrastructure. On the other hand, once you start to have basically traction on one end, but your needs start to evolve, and maybe you want to have more flexibility, you want to start to customize, then you can tap in the Arbitrum Orbit and create your Orbit chain, for example, and be independent and be basically sovereign and control your environment. So that's something you can definitely have on Arbitrum. What does it mean? This is interesting. So basically, you have different phases. You can start today, launch really, really fast on Arbitrum 1. It's battle tested. It's an infrastructure already used by partners such as like BlackRock or Robinhood, quite well established, and they are in need of having something that works out of the box. Then you can start to scale, have your project growing, start to gain complete technical control if you want. And if you want, you customize everything. Like you get your Arbitrum chain, you can have full control over governance, economics, and basically you have your own sovereign nation. What is really good between launching quickly on Arbitrum 1 and then scale on Arbitrum chain is that basically is a painless journey. You don't really need to do too much work. There are so many ways to launch your chain without basically any type of migration. And finally, moving towards the futures, once you are part of Arbitrum 1, you have your chain, you're basically own your future, and you can also start to contribute and sustain back to the entire Arbitrum ecosystem. So this idea of build, scale, and control is what we like to think that is a journey that you as a builder, funders, or even engineers, you can take through Arbitrum. Now, we're going to go slightly deeper on the tech stack, and I want to deep dive on basically where you're going to build during open house. So first of all, there are a bunch of innovations on Arbitrum. One is the EVM Plus paradigm. So everyone knows that we can deploy on Solidity on Arbitrum. What we have added is this concept of another VM called WASM. And what does it mean here is that while traditional L2 have their EVM, on Arbitrum we have a second EVM that allow you to basically have any type of language that can compile to WASM directly together with Solidity. And the great thing here is that they are interoperable. So you get two virtual machines that they are interoperable between them, and the WASM is basically the magic behind the scene. Why we did silos? I think it's a great question. So the reality is that the EVM operate with this concept of 256-bit chunks that were optimized for crypto primitives, but they're not optimized for the today hardware that actually work with the 32 or 64-bit stack. So that translates in a large memory registry, which is not super optimized. And also the EVM doesn't have just-in-time compilation, which is like a bit of lack of advanced optimization. So what stylus bring for you is basically a cheap way to get memory and compute on your contracts. So let's say that you have an innovative library that has been developed in Rust or in C++ that is heavy on CPU and memory. That's perfect to be ported in stylus, and then you can leverage it. For example, OpenZeppelin did the Poseidon hash in Rust, and now is available through the stylus SDK, and you have it, so you can use it. And the great thing is you can use it between Solidity, call stylus, and leverage it, or you can write from scratch your entire app on stylus. As we said, is multi-language. You can work in Rust, but you can also have C, C++, or any WASM-friendly language. So I would say that I see stylus as a way to scale your contracts when you need basically memory and compute heavy tasks outsourced from Solidity. That's a quick example. I will not go into details how it works. It's the classic counter, but I want to highlight the fact that this is actually Rust, is not a DSL. You can see here the macros, and through those we can basically put together a smart contract that is actually working and can be deployed. If you want to hear more about that, someday I'm going to go through these details. One of the greatest aspect here is the full interoperability. Like on the left side, you have the Solidity. And unfortunately, my thumbnail is covering the important bit. Let's see if I can switch like this. Yeah, fantastic. And so here it's just a smart contract invoking another address. And look, the other address is on the right side written in stylus. And this is basically the token URI, which generating an SVG. And look how many nested loop we have here. This is normally like considered really bad in the Solidity world. And actually you can do it in stylus and get some fancy UI directly on chain. When you are invoking the token URI, you get the SVG directly from the RPC calls. So yeah, it's fully interoperable, both sides. I think it's a great way when you need it. Stylus is now in production since September. We're starting to see used in different situations. We have superposition. We saw some pretty cool Uniswap hooks. There is a project called Renegade working on the dark pools. And then there are like Fairblock experimenting on the dynamic MPC. Again, leveraging really Stylus for what it's better, which is basically when you need memory and CPU heavy tasks. Okay, we were talking about innovations. I'm very curious if you actually know about Time Boost. This is an innovation that started like a few months ago, literally. And what is Time Boost? Before answering that question, we need to do a step back and talk for a moment about MEV. So this MEV that is so discussed is the concept of maximal extractable value. So basically is what is the value you can get from block production that is not rewards or gas that comes from by either including or excluding or changing the order of the transaction in a block. That's a definition. And as you know, it was a big problem back in the days. People were tackling that and looking into the mempool, trying to front run or back run people or sandwich even worse. So that was a big problem in Ethereum. I think now is under control, or at least we have a marketplace that goes in the direction to be more transparent. And this was also a problem when we built Arbitrum and Nitro. And we came up with a different concept. And so on Arbitrum chain, the concept is really around first come, first serve. What does it mean? It's basically the concept that you can have on the sequencer, the certainty that the first transaction went through will be the first to being executed. And there is no chance to reorder the transaction. This is great because it's a very simple algorithm. It allows us to have a very quick block time, 250 milliseconds on Arbitrum 1, but you can even go to 100 in your Orbit chain. It prevents people to be front run. So you have implicit in this model the MEV protection. However, there is a downside on this, which is basically some heavy load on our infrastructure, because people are smart and they figured out that they could do something to back run people. So what does it mean is that they are stressing our infrastructure to really be the first one to know what is the new state of the chain after a certain block. And one of the other downsides of this back running is that the MEV goes entirely to the searcher. So they are spamming the infra, try to be the first one, and if they get it right, then all the MEV goes to them and not back to the ecosystem. So what we thought about is that we can do something about this. So we came up with this idea of time boost. That is basically an auction. It's a marketplace where searchers can bid for the control of the express lane. It allows only one type of MEV, which is the backrunning. And what does it mean backrunning is basically after you did your transaction, after you got what you wanted from interacting with Arbitrum, you can basically, you're less interested about what comes later. And so by backrunning, the searchers can take advantage of your, for example, last trade and identify that now they could arbitrage the price between the new structure on Arbitrum and maybe in another venue. So that's what does it mean allowing the backrunning. In order to bid, they need to put money on the table, and they are basically paying the ecosystem to get a benefit. Another benefit of Time Boost is the fact that the Arbitrum infrastructure is stress-free. So we are releasing resources, and eventually this is translated also in cheaper transaction costs because we don't need to reinvest so heavily in the infra because the bots. Who is using Time Boost today? Well, that's quite interesting to see that it's a quite healthy market with different actors. Of course, we can see that there are actors more active than others. We see here now Selene Capital, Wintermute, and Kairos being the main ones, but there are many others working and try, and we could imagine that this market change in the future. So does Time Boost work? I think it's a great question as well. Like, it is beneficial for the ecosystem, this innovation, and is it something that could bring us to maybe in a better place moving forward? And I would say that it has been quite successful. So since Genesis, that is back in April, we generated more than 3 million of fees that are going back to the DAO, which is significant, honestly, in just that little time. And what is even more interesting is that Time Boost is now contributing, depending on the weekdays, etc., between like 30 and 50% of the DAO revenue. So we basically added a new revenue stream in Arbitrum through Time Boost, and this will benefit the entire ecosystem moving forward. So I'm very excited about that. I think it has been really great since the start, and more is coming. Like, we're working to go in even in more details to understand how people are using it. Okay, so we talked already about Arbitrum chains. During the Buildathon, I mean, I could imagine even people to do that. I don't think it's maybe the best first step, but it's definitely possible. So what are the Arbitrum chains? First of all, the Arbitrum chain is the possibility to access an SDK that gives you different elements. First of all, you are basically leveraging the same tech that ran Arbitrum 1, which is Nitro. You can run Nitro as an independent or to a RAS, which is basically roll up as a service, and you just pay someone else to run your infrastructure. There are many, and you can basically get it done with few clicks. Through the SDK, you can also access the data viability. So it's up to you if you want to be a roll-up, settling, for example, on Arbitrum 1 or somewhere else, or any trust. And finally, through the SDK, you can have also your custom gas token if you need. or just use Ethereum, but you can also put together your precompiles, which is, again, pretty cool. For who doesn't know what is a precompile, it's basically some code that executes natively on the node that can do basically whatever you think makes sense for your chain. So it's particularly useful for customization and in general for tailored code specific for your business logic. Now, with that, when you get basically your SDK, your Arbitrum chain, you got the EVM plus. So that means Solidity, of course, plus Stylus and the Wasmer SDK. You got a project that has security built in. It comes from directly Nitro. You have, of course, your dedicated chain. So that means if there are spikes on the Arbitrum one, this doesn't impact your price. You have a system that can be extended, adding your custom chain logic, and all the account abstraction, all the evolution coming on Arbitrum 1 are then available directly also in your chain. And finally, if you want, you can either be permissionless or like as Ethereum or Arbitrum, or vice versa, having your restricted contract deployment. It's really depending on your business logic. So this is one of my preferred slides. I like the flexibility here. I like the fact that on Arbitrum, you can build as it fits for you. And while here you can see that with the SDK, you can set up to settle on Arbitrum 1. You can even imagine them to be an L3 that settle in another L2. Or even much more interesting, you can be a chain as Arbitrum 1 and L2 that is settling to Ethereum. But we had even examples of people setting to other layer ones. And so what does this slide shows is really the flexibility you can have on by leveraging the Arbitrum tech stack, which is really, really flexible and not opinionated in terms of how you use the tech. So really keen to see how people will deploy the Arbit chains in the future. Now, licensing is pretty clear. You can basically have the possibility to deploy it in different setups. So if you're settling on Arbitrum 1 or Nova, there is no obligation to share revenues with the DAO. Like really, you take these, I would say, almost for free. Then there is this BSL. It's an open source license that says basically you can run the code in production without any limitation, as long as basically you follow one of these two exceptions. So either you are settling on Arbitrum 1, or if you are settling on in different type of L1, then you contribute 10% of your net chain revenues back to the DAO. That's the only elements you have to consider when you are picking an Orbit chain and you want to deploy on your own. Talking about customization, we already explained a bit these elements. And I wanted to explain the fact that you can create your precompiles, then you need to register. You just create an API, you compile it, so you get this WASM module that is your native code now, and then you deploy it, and then it is available for everyone. So it's pretty easy to do it, very flexible, and allows you to customize your Orbit chain as you prefer. Now, do it or not? That is a very good question. And there is no single answer. It really depends. But if we want to really simplify, I think you should deploy an Arbitrum 1 when you want to basically leverage everything in the Arbitrum Everywhere model. So you get the top-notch tech, already battle-tested. You don't need to run your infrastructure, is by default fast, secure, composable, and you can access the liquidity. That's a great way, very easy. You just deploy the contract. On the other side of the spectrum, if you are actually in a place where you want to tailor the black space and you want to have your custom precompiles, and maybe you want to even customize the state transition function, well, then this is not possible to Arbitrum 1. You need to go towards the Arbitrum chain to get your dedicated throughput, performance isolated from the rest, and then you can customize everything as you want, including having your gas token as a ERC20. So that is a bit of the you as a builder, what you could decide to do depending on your context. But this is the opportunity you have. If you decided to do it, you have two options. Either you deploy through a RAS, so you can use QuickNode, Caldera, Conduit, Outlayer, Gelato, Asphere, Alchemy, or Zeev. All of them provide many customization, and it's very easy to do it. But while it's super easy, we recommend probably to do it. It doesn't mean you can't be an independent and own your infrastructure and have your customization directly handled by yourself. Of course, it's harder. Your team needs to be more knowledgeable, but it's definitely possible to do that. The code is open source. You can download it and run it by yourself. Chains, we have different ones here already. Ape Chain, you know that now Robinhood has launched on Arbitrum 1. There are plans there. Pirate Nation, Galax as well, and then Converge is happening soon and will be also an Arbitrum chain. So you can see that this is tech already used. We're not talking about something in the future, is already happening, and you can leverage it as well on your side when you are building on the Arbitrum stack. Okay, interoperability. Like, this is another element super important. Arbitrum is really a powerhouse in that we are at the center of different ecosystem. People are building on Arbitrum also because of that. And we are double down on this aspect, and we are building what is called like universal intent engine. What is this? It's basically try to tackle this big issue of the multi-chain world. The truth is, like, all those chains are isolated networks. These translate in fragmented liquidity. Managing your assets is not that easy. Like, I think everyone knows that you have multiple Ethereum versions on Ethereum itself, on Arbitrum, on Base, or even in Solana, you could have like a representation. It's not that easy to handle with that. And even more, if you decide to move your asset, it's quite slow. So the multi-chain world definitely brought a lot of innovations and possibilities, but at the same time created new challenges. And so what we want to do here is to really put together a trustless approach that is a cross-chain communication. Like, it should be really around the trust assumptions, evaluate carefully what are the risks, the underlying risk, and making sure that the engine can stay basically up to date and trustless. Has to be cheap in the end. It's really a key factor. And again, when you're moving between so many different chains, it is not that obvious to figure it out how to do it in a cheap and efficient way. And finally, has to be fast. And of course, as the L1 finality goes faster, that also ensures that it is basically practical, functional. So really, this is the approach. How it works, really quickly, there are like 4 elements. We are working on a message, on a standardization of the message. There is a need to have a standardized way to broadcast that information, and then achieve a way where we can distribute the feed to the solvers. So who are those solvers is basically the one responsible to fulfill the request that you are making as a users, that I want, for example, have these assets move from one chain to the other. So maybe I need to swap my assets, and that will imply that I need to go through different chains. So solvers resolve that. And finally, basically putting this together in as fast as possible. Because it goes through different chains, there is also a coordination element on this that we are taking care of. And so it's not just Arbitrum working on this, there is also other partners, including like Open Zeppelin and Ethereum Foundation itself, like looking into this. Moving on, like I'm really passionate about crypto. I came here really thinking about the credible neutral as an important element. And I'm really happy about where Arbitrum is today. Just a few months ago, we put together Bold, which is another step towards this goal. And I don't know how many know or are aware of these little pies that often are discussed between people that work in the industry. But this little pie try to explain an important aspect, which is basically decentralization. And to move that little pie from red to yellow took a lot of energies. Why? It's because the delay attack. So the delay attack is basically these malicious strategies where an attacker delay the confirmation on the rollup results. As you know, on Arbitrum, we are an L2 rollup, an optimistic rollup. And so we rely on the challenge period. The challenge period is 7 days and allows someone that sees something wrong in the on the chain to basically challenge the results. So the delay attack really tackled this aspect, and rather than be in good faith, try to do something in bad faith. And what they do is to try to basically constantly repeat and submit incorrect results, and basically making sure that the chain, it needs to keep resolving those challenges. And so that translates on the delay attack. So the malicious actor is intentionally delay the confirmation, so avoiding basically people to withdraw their asset from the L2. And it's a liveness risk, because basically all our energies will go through that. And so because of that, we couldn't allow people to independently be validators of the chain. So Bold has basically solved that, and now we have a permissionless dispute system that replaces the previous permission fraud proof. It's quite interesting that the disputes are anchored on Ethereum. So the great thing is that any number of honest parties can basically prove the claim is correct. And this is basically how we resolve and we fix the challenge time, because you can avoid this indefinite delay or griefing attack. And it translated with a major step towards stage 2. So now anyone can validate the child chain state. Just in interest of time, I think from a technical standpoint here, what did the change is that previously was sequential. So you need to resolve one challenge at a time. Now a single party can resolve any number of challenges. And so this is really the improvement, and that solves the problem. And now you can create a bond and start to be a validator, and it's permissionless, like you can do it. And so what it means is basically we move it from the state validation being yellow stage to green. And now we are one step away to the full stage 2. So that just to explain that Arbitrum is not only a great technical stack, it's also really within the interest of Arbitrum to be credible neutral. And we are committing a significant amount of resources towards this objective. So we are very proud of all those improvements we did over the last months. Okay, so time to maybe summarize about all the things I talked through, and before we move back to the open house online Buildathon. So to summarize, when you're building your project and you do it one block at a time, leveraging Arbitrum tech stack, you can basically tap in Stylus, in Solidity. So you have the EVM and the WASM VM at your disposal. You can leverage Time Boost in your chain, but in general, Time Boost goes in direction to support people in the entire ecosystem, because the revenues go back to the DAO, and then that's basically translate in more initiatives to support the DAO itself. You can have your Arbitrum chain where you can customize and build as it fits you. And finally, you are benefiting from all the tech we are pushing. And so you can see, for example, with Bold, we are moving towards stage 2, leveraging the Ethereum security. So it's a really flexible technology stack, but it's also built on top of what we call the digital sovereign nation. What is this? Why it doesn't matter for you is because we want to have you part of this journey, and we believe that this is how we can help also the people to keep building on our ecosystem. So what is a digital sovereign nation? Is basically a new model for blockchain economics. There are 3 levels. The first one is the governance. So the fact that the revenue that we get from the block space and the execution environment, they are basically part of that. We have a sustainable funding for innovation program. Like, you are part of that today. Like, this open house is funded by the fact that we are generating revenues on Arbitrum, and I think it's great. We want to have a policy that basically allow to set the stakeholders to be really part of the Arbitrum DAO and making sure that basically we are the control on the protocol upgrades. This is a big aspect. I think there is a lot of work going through that in our forums, first of all, to communicate that, but behind the scene, there is a lot of work to make it sure that we have the resources to be put there. And finally, there are opportunities. It's really systematics. We have these revenue flows that goes to the investment program and attract basically people like you to join, come, and start to be contributor of the economics of Arbitrum that then we can reinvest. If you go on the Arbitrum Foundation grants, you can see all the activities that are happening as we speak. More to be updated, but there is different stuff, like, for example, the Arbitrum audit program or the RB Fuel View that is supporting people for subsidized transaction fees, and so on and so forth. Really, this is the summary of how this works, the idea behind the economics that enable growth. So you start from revenues that goes back to the DAO, and then we can invest in programs, and these translate on chain activities. And you're really part of this journey. I'm really happy to see so many people connecting. And I think it's interesting to see what you're gonna build during the online Buildathon and see where we go from there. How it works, the Arbitrum economic engine, is basically 3 elements. One is the Arbitrum One is clearly one of the leading L2. We have 6 billions on stablecoin, almost 3 billions in DeFi TVL, and a lot of activities happening. Arbitrum Orbit is the possibility to have your customization there. We have already 48 customized chain on mainnet. We have around more than 1 million weekly active address. This is basically 30% of all L2 transaction. And the great thing here is that 10% of those profits goes back to the Arbitrum DAO. And finally, Arbitrum as a DAO, we have a treasury of 1.2 billion. We have 94% profit margin on block space, 800 plus protocol deployed, revenues flow to the Arbitrum DAO, and it's completely controlled by on-chain and by the treasury itself. So I think it's really, really great. It's a powerhouse that keep rolling and helping people to then be more active and produce other products that they will eventually have an impact on Arbitrum itself. Just don't take our word for it. Like other people such as Reddit, Franklin Templeton, BlackRock, Ubisoft, Robinhood, PayPal, they are already building on Arbitrum. So you can be the next one. So really happy to see that you can be part of the Arbitrum journey. Now, let's not forget that we are here for the open house Buildathon in India. Later today, in a couple of hours, we're going to have a panel, which is the title Building Globally from India. We're really happy to be here in India with this initiative as the first pilot for the open house. And so we're going to talk with you, with people in the community, people that already built in India. And so please connect and go there. And then this evening, 6 p.m., we're going to do on Discord the speed dating. Remember, this is a two-side marketplace. Either you are a solo builder, you want to join another team, you can go there and pitch yourself. Vice versa, teams that maybe are looking for people, they can go there and pitch themselves as well. So it's a two ways. So go there, and really happy to start this. Now, first of all, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really happy for all the people joining. Definitely, you can still sign up for the online Buildathon. Just scan this QR code. You can jump on the arbitrum.hackquest.io Buildathon Open House India Online Buildathon, and you sign up. You go through it. It's pretty easy. You need to fill a bunch of questions. We want to know a bit more about yourself and what you are thinking to build, or maybe what you have already built. And then that's it. Then you can start your journey. So this is it on my side. Thank you so much, guys. Is all for today. And I will now stop the streaming. Thank you again, everyone, and have a great rest of the day.